Hi, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk About Skills, Baby. I am your host, Kelly Ryan Bailey. This week, I'm joined by Jay Latta. Jay is an emerging technology strategist with over 35 years of experience focused on industrial and enterprise IT and innovation. He has a passion for analyzing complex technologies and systems, clearly defining actionable insights, and helping the C-suite better implement effective technology solutions. Jay is now developing open networks like Panafrin or ERIC. Is that how you pronounce them, Jay?
Exactly, yes.
Perfect. And building partnerships to support emerging technology markets, better enabling innovation and maximizing the benefit to all involved. So excited to have you here today, Jay. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation. Big pleasure. Thanks a
Oh,
lot.
well, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey. What led you to do this work today?
I guess it's my curiosity. Look, I'm born in the former socialistic communistic regime in Czechoslovakia.
Mm-hmm.
So the science fiction that we had was different than the Western science fiction. The Western one is mostly that aliens will come, will defeat everyone, and you have to strike back and all of this stuff. So dystopian. The East European was more into, it was a bet onto the future. So out of this nothing, they had to show us this really shiny whatever future, and simply to inspire all the people to work together on this future. And this is something that somehow stayed in my own thinking. So as soon with my father, with the family, we relocated to Germany. It stayed in my mind. And I've identified some of these bright futures also in some things of like Star Trek, but most of the science fiction was really very, very negative. And so it's in my nature, in my DNA, to be this kind of positive thinking guy, not optimist. Optimism is something passive. I really like to shape the things. And the main message that brought me into this is really, I have a vision of a future where I would like to live in. So I try to do everything possible simply to make this future happen.
I love how you put it that way. Has that vision for the future in your, I go like this because I'm thinking in your mind, has that vision changed over time? When did you start to think about the future in this way?
Well, of course, being a little boy, growing up and so on, I had several dreams, like, for example, becoming an astronaut. So this is one a really important part of this vision. But the thing is that the general vision, being in a world that is equal, being in a world where learning, gaining knowledge is one of the most important things, that the humans can focus on what they are best in, not doing some kind of, sorry to say, bullshit work, but really to do something meaningful. Everyone has a passion. We just need to figure out what is our passion, to be the best in it. It doesn't matter if you simply change this passion after 2 years, 3 years, when it's simply enough that you do something different. So this is somehow this way that became clearer and clearer. More this vision became sharper, and I've seen through my whole life, corporate life, and so on, we are figuring out what we don't want to do.
Right.
And this, your own purpose, your own way is becoming clearer and clearer, so that you really can see, okay, this is what I want to focus on. So my way, my vision has not changed. It simply became with more substance.
Someone said to me yesterday on a call that passion comes after experiences. And I had to agree, because I was like, well, how would you know what you're passionate about until you try something? Is that kind of what you just said?
I would say it goes hand in hand.
Okay.
Sometimes you develop a passion and you've never tried it out. Of course, you learn as
Mhm.
soon you experience it, and maybe it's the right way. It's look, everything what we are doing is learning. This is one of the most important skills when we talk about skills.
Mhm.
Simply stay curious, learning all the time, that it's not a burden, that you don't simply are spitted out of the school and then it's finished. You work until you retire and die. In fact, it's a journey. It's really, you find you are interested into something. When, for example, someone develops a passion for, let's say, having a garden, somehow you need to be interested into this, developing the passion to read about it, somehow to start about it. So the experience, in fact, comes with this and afterwards, where you can deep dive into it and make it more perfect and so on. So this passion really, it's a small seed that needs to grow.
That makes sense. And I love how you described it with gardening, something so simple as gardening, right? Because it's like an everyday thing. That love, that passion in my
Mhm.
mind could be anything. Um,
Exactly.
I had someone on that just really didn't try coffee until he was later in life, and he just loved coffee and he wanted to learn more about it. And just, it was just like a passion, became
Mhm.
this passion.
Mhm.
But sometimes, like you said, it could just be anything in our life that we love. How do you find that thing, like for people that are listening? Because sometimes
Mhm.
I know it's at certain points in my life. Again, I love how you described a journey, because in this journey of life, there were some times in my younger years that if someone had asked me, what are you passionate about, what do you love, I don't think I could have answered them.
I'm pretty sure you would have been able to answer it. Simply think about it. It's these sparks. This journey starts as soon we start thinking while we are playing. One important thing is, for example, that as children, we are having all of these skills already. We are able to think in an exponential way. When we are playing, we are multitasking, able to do multitasking. We are able to see things from different perspectives. As soon we enter, mostly as soon we enter into the educational system, this is beaten out of our heads. We need to go linear. We need to develop into this straight thing, do your stuff, do not change the direction. As soon you change the direction, and in Germany, in Europe, it's harder because
Okay.
there is no second chance. In
Mm,
the US, you are more solution oriented. We
mm-hmm,
here, we are problem oriented. So as soon you fail, you are a loser. You will
mm-hmm,
never get a second chance. So we need to know who is guilty. Hang him higher. And I never felt comfortable with this
mm,
because if you make a mistake, an error, or whatever, if it fails, hey, you discovered a way how not to do it. What's
right.
wrong with it? Even if you fail 2, 3, 4, 5 times, okay, as long you burn your own hands, it's okay. But there is no perfect way, there is no linear way. This
Mm-hmm,
is a completely wrong understanding. And this came into the whole industrialization because where did industrialization started? It was in the United Kingdom, in the empire, in the glorious empire.
mm-hmm,
So when they have built all of these plants and so on, and the only people that were able to work in these plants were farmers that were not busy on their land to do something, so some kind of unemployed, they went into these facilities to work there, but they
mm-hmm,
were unreliable because farming in the past times was more or less, it was not a competition. You've worked until it was enough, and then you focused on different things.
mm-hmm.
Imagine something like this in a heavy industry, when the people simply say, oh, fine, I made my money for the rest of the month, I'm going home. You would not do anything. So we needed structures. These structures came from the military.
Mm-hmm.
These hierarchies became right now, with more and more individualization, completely toxic.
Mm,
You are reporting, and especially in Germany, we love our hierarchies, we love our processes. This is how we are breathing. This
mm,
is really the most important thing. We understand each other as small gears in a huge machine where you just need the strong leader and a bit of oil to keep it running.
right.
And we are educated that we are so small gears, so unimportant, that if we break, the machine will continue working. This is wrong. It's
Right.
completely wrong, because the more we are doing office work, in the past, on an assembly line, you became an expert to do one
One thing.
specific, exactly.
Yep.
Now, with more flexibility, the people started to realize, hey, I don't need the assembly line needs me. And the younger these generations become, the more they are curious about possibilities, about opportunities. They
Mm-hmm.
don't go into a job to stay in a corporate for the next 35, 40 years. No, maybe after 1.5, 2 years, they simply go somewhere else because they are curious.
Right.
And here it's really to break out of this linear thinking, out of this, you need your career to marry, have children, build a house, whatever. All of this is nonsense. It
Right.
does not serve our main human need, which is to stay curious,
Mm-hmm.
to be creative. And I see here as a huge enabler, for example, artificial intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
that it can really, through RPAs, robotic process automatization, cognitive process automation, all of this stuff, to enable us to minimize our own nonsense work, this recurring stuff, sending
Right.
reports out and whatever. The pandemic showed us very clear that we don't need the management to observe us. In Germany, the management is called Vorgesetzter. Translated, the one who is sitting in front of you,
Oh.
mostly sitting in front of your way.
Mm-hmm.
And you see through these hierarchies, when we are at home, there is no guy who simply observes you if you are fulfilling your whatever
Right.
and doesn't give you additional, hey, Jay, do you have additional capacity? Hell no. And when I talk with my former colleagues, they tell me the pandemic is the best whatever could happen to them, because now at home, they are masters of their own time. There
Right.
is no guy who walks by side and tells them, hey, I need to leave a bit earlier. Can you take this from me?
Right.
No. And so you are focused on your own stuff. You do it. There is no manager who annoys you. And the people, mostly these people, what they are missing is the chitty chat in the coffee canteen,
Right.
but not really being under observation. So
The
we are
reports
really,
are starting to come out too with
yes,
productivity is so much
exactly.
higher.
Yes.
And I mean, I know that, I know a lot of working mothers, so I can
Mhm.
tell you for sure that the majority that I know have enjoyed and never even see how they
Mhm.
could go back into an office environment because they're
Yes,
able to handle all the things in life by being
e-
at home.
exactly. And now a second thing happens. The controllers, the accountants that are so obsessed of self-improvement, of cost optimization, all of this
Right.
nonsense, ROI, OKRs, however you will call this the whole alphabet,
Mm-hmm.
they started to realize that it's cheaper when the people are not coming into the office, because the cleaning woman does not come
Right.
every day. It's okay when she comes once per week. If you have this completely empty glass castle, hey, it's too expensive. You need to heat it, you need to maintain it, and so on and so on. So they started to shrink all of these.
Mm-hmm.
Companies started to look around if there is something cheaper on the market.
Right.
They don't need to pay the coffee for the people. They don't need even the new white gold toilet paper. Come on. So this optimization that is in fact freedom for the people, where they can start now to think about new models how to make money. And
Mm-hmm.
now something very, very interesting happened. Even before the pandemic, the Generation Z, these millennials and so on, they are clever, because I've been in several hiring interviews simply to ask right questions, because HR mostly has absolutely no clue whom they are hiring. They have no idea about the job cards. And when you have these guys fresh from the university, from the college, whatever, and they might get a proposal, an offer, and it's mostly in Germany 35 or 40 hours per week. And they start to ask, well, 40 hours, I don't know, can I get a part-time job? And
Interesting.
you should see the eyes of this HR guy, like, but this is a full-time position. Why do you can't afford then a super cool car? You can't build a family.
Right.
And the answer mostly is, well, I'm more interested into a work-life balance, into my well-being.
Mm-hmm.
These people live in a kind of community with several. They simply rent a house and with 5-6 people, and they live in these rooms, and so they can save enough money to maybe also take a sabbatical. A sabbatical in Germany is minimum half a year,
Okay.
mostly a whole year. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a real sabbatical where you simply save up, where you are getting paid 70% of your salary. The rest is put by side so that you can survive this whole year, simply being still paid.
Mm-hmm.
And so this brings a complete new quality. And now something different happens on the other side. Because these guys are not dumb, if it's accepted by the corporate, they don't go every day 5 days per week for 4 hours into the office. No. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday noonish, they leave for a long weekend. And you see then the old guys who somehow arranged with it that they will work for 40 years at this company, and they see it and they start to think about it. Hey, come on, am I dumb? I'm working here for my 40-hour contract for nearly 60 hours per week. The tax is extraordinary. I pay here 50% tax.
Yep.
And it's like, why can't I have something similar? A long weekend. Why
Yep.
can't we arrange something like this? So this awareness of something's going wrong. I don't need to have a job that I don't really like. To make money, I don't need. To buy nonsense that doesn't bring me any additional benefit. To impress people, I don't want to be too rude, that I don't like.
Yep.
It's an eternal competition against people that, come on, it's a burnout that we go into, that is somehow a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. We don't need it.
No, I absolutely love what you're saying. You know what is so funny? So everything that you've just described, I was just rereading this book.
Okay.
Have you read this book, Linchpin?
Nope.
Well, it talks about people as being cogs in a factory. And so that's why I laughed when you said it, but I recommend this book to anyone. It's Linchpin by Seth Godin for anyone who's not viewing this. This book talks about how to make yourself indispensable. But it talks a lot about living into being curious, living into your love and your passion, and paving a different way in the world. You know, that concept that you described of, you know, we work at a company for 40 years and until we die. And, you know, that concept, like you said, the younger generations are already starting to see it. And I think because the rest of us being in the environment with the younger generations are starting to, you know, be aware that there might actually be an alternative. And piecing back, I love you just went through the thought process that someone might have, like, why am I doing this? They keep asking themselves, why? And then they realize all of this time, I've just been trying to do something that is not actually serving me and making me happy. And what would that look like? listening to that voice inside of you and thinking about it, maybe what would it be that I would do if I didn't have to chase all of these things that the system has set up for me? And it's actually a really, when you think about this from a skill perspective, this is actually, it's a learned behavior, because right, we've learned to behave the way that society wants us to all of these years, right? And this is just reversing that, maybe unlearning and relearning a new way.
Exactly. Learn, unlearn, and relearn. We have to, we need to internalize some kind of self-assessment from time to time, simply to look into us and to see if the whole way, of course, everyone is in a kind of sense successful, but if this way is still future-proof. And now we are living in really, really interesting times. The pandemic accelerates a lot of things, and rethinking, and the new generation, it's not just the guys who are leaving, or girls and boys who are leaving the educational system. These are the customers of the future and the employees of the future. So if the old structures do not adapt onto this, they are doomed. Who wants, in German industry, more or less on these real heavy classic companies, these new generations return their contracts, these offers, when they apply for a job, around, in average, 25% of these job offers are given back within a month, when these younger generations tell you, I can't work for you. You are not transparent. The behavior, this hyena cage, this eternal competition, that I'm working with passion on something and then my name is taken out. My superior puts his name into it simply to make career. This is a behavior that is not accepted anymore.
It's so true. And I mean, I've thought about this so often. But I wonder too, now that you're describing, I know the audience may not know your history, a little bit about the organizations that you've worked with, because you've sort of seen this internally. Maybe talk a little bit about that as well. Just, who you've worked with, because of course, these are sort of more traditional organizations.
Yeah, so you want to hear some names, right? Okay, so I left my last big corporate employer was BMW in Germany. I've been there as innovations manager, also supervising the tech offices, so being responsible for the budgets, what kind of projects they make, yada yada yada, all of this stuff. It was very interesting, because when I joined them, it was another promise than what turned out of it. The guy who hired me, he told me, oh, this initial hiring talk was about, Jay, we exactly need these kind of, he called it paradise bird. This kind of colorful people who think beyond the horizon, who can look into the left and to the right. And the thing is that I've been hired then because these words were very intriguing for me. But this guy has not told me that he stayed on his position or only for the next month. And so when he disappeared, these old structures hit me very hard. Before this, of course, in my corporate history, I worked for Siemens. I've been for a smaller consultancy that brought me nearly 10 years, where I worked for big names like Hypo-Vereinsbank, now UniCredit, where I had for several banks doing my stuff, even for this Wirecard stuff that now completely broke apart. So this is this thing simply from banking, from governmental organizations, from larger banks like Hessische Landesbank, one of the major banks responsible in Germany for Hessia. In automotive, of course, a very, very traditional way of thinking, tin folders and exhaust sniffers, like I call them. And here it's really to go through all of these structures, to see how you have to pre-plan your way of life. And mostly, if you find the right mentor inside, and at BMW, my mentor was then one of the board members who was very, very curious about my ideas. I got, when I wrote him an email, within half an hour, he answered me. He always managed 45 minutes that we could talk, and even a bit more. And I've been able to set up some completely crazy ideas with him. Some generated so much resistance within these corporate structures. And when he left in October 2019, my kind of promise to stay in this company, for me, it was very easy. When he left, there was simply no reason for me to stay there. And so I've been able to fully work on my own ideas to generate some new things. I mean, for you to explain, I started because automotive, this heavy industry can be very, very boring if you have just to fulfill what this silo tells you. But in innovation, there is far more. I need to follow, mostly one of my bosses always told me, Jay, you need to focus. This is not how innovation works, because to focus means do your stuff, write your report, and shut your trap. And I've been more or less, I need to follow this initial thought. I need to figure out where it will lead me to, because innovation simply does not stop at the door of your office. It's cross-industrial. Sometimes you get an inspiration from healthcare that could solve a problem in automotive. If you simply do it in one cage of only with this glasses on focus on automotive, it's not good. And you see it, for example, that all of these accelerators, incubators from automotives, they disappear from the market because it's completely the wrong way. Thought leaders, people who are obsessed with innovation, to think about possibilities, about opportunities, they need to be quite free. They need to be handled like some kind of external think tank, where of course the mother company has some kind of jus prima noctem, the right of the first night, but everything else that they can't digest, they can't process, can be offered for the rest of the whole landscape. This is how innovation really should work. So 11 years ago, I've set up my own think tank, STINT, Strategic Intelligence for New Technologies, where I simply processed all of the stuff that was not of use or not usable for automotive, where I could simply describe, why do we need a UBI? Should it be a corporate issue or a governmental issue? How should data privacy of the future look like? I've even written some position papers for politicians, simply to close their own gap. But come on, talking with politicians, which brought me into dealing with startups, support startups, find investors for them. With the time also, investors, private equity, corporate accelerators reached out to me and asked me, hey, Jay, do you have some cool startups that make something with 5G? This question came, for example, from one of the bigger telecommunication companies. I mean, come on, it's their job. I mean, appreciate that you ask me. Right now, I have very, very good relations. I've not left completely automotive, but I'm making a big, or I keep a huge distance between German automotives and me. I'm having really very, very insightful and good talks with innovations management from a Scandinavian car maker and a Japanese car maker, who
Interesting.
think in a completely different way,
Yeah.
that are trying to really reinvent. They are trying, for example, to rethink if we really need this GIT, just in time, where
Mhm.
we see through this pandemic that it collapses. This supply chain, we need to go into distributed manufacturing. We
Mhm.
need to go into global decentralization,
Mhm.
really to focus on other things. And again, look for the purpose. ESG, this sustainability idea, becomes more and more important, not just as a kind of whitewashing, greenwashing, whatever. There are so many companies out there who have a sustainability department, but it's just empty offices. It's
Mhm.
just bullshitting to pretend you are doing something.
Mhm.
Now this boomerang comes back because the younger generations, they are asking for, how does it look like? Just putting some values onto your website doesn't mean you really live it. When I
Right.
want to know what's going wrong in a corporate, when I should advise them, I'm looking onto the named values that they think they are
Mhm.
representing. This is
Mhm.
exactly what is missing.
It's so true. It's surprising to me as we chat how much I feel like you and I look at the world in a very similar way. This idea that there is this future that could possibly exist, and what are the puzzle pieces that we can put together to
Mhm,
create this future? And all of those puzzle pieces, I often get the question, which I'm imagining you might as well, you know, there's a lot of things you're involved in. And I'm like, well, they all actually make sense because
mhm,
there's this future picture
mhm,
and there are more than one area. I can't just focus, like you said, in my tunnel vision on this one thing if I want this big picture to exist.
mhm.
What is we haven't really, I mean, we talked a little bit about what you're seeing as your big picture future, but tell us what is this, what did, what is it? What is the future you would like to see?
Mhm. Well, as first to comment on one thing that you've said, puzzle pieces. This is one of the most important things that we have to understand. Ecosystemic thinking. The future is
Mhm.
about collaboration and cooperation. Competition is outdated. We need
Yep.
competition in sports. We need competition in some kind of hackathon to find out the best
Right.
fitting idea.
Like the
But
healthy competition. I actually have on
exactly,
my vision board right here, one of my cards says collaboration over competition. And I had
yes.
already decided that 2021 for
Uh-huh.
me, that's like my mantra.
Exactly, you are completely true. And this ecosystemic thinking embeds this collaboration cooperation idea where you don't need to be the biggest of very biggest simply to become a monopolist. This is toxic. You
Yeah.
you you come into a rush and it's unhealthy.
Mhm.
So here it's really about to understand that you have a place in this life, and if the others in this area see it in a similar way, you can reach far more, because then you are again in this exponential thinking. So this just as a slight comment.
Yeah.
This vision of the future is, for example, completely questioning our working model. The working model, when I've mentioned, for example, the UBI, in my opinion, the UBI should be a corporate issue. That
What is UBI?
unconditional basic income
Okay.
or universal basic income.
Okay.
Um, we will need this as long we still are trapped in our monetary system.
Yes.
Maybe one day we don't need money anymore, because I'm a huge fan of the post scarcity, where you
Mhm.
have so much that it's fully automatized. Of course, everyone will be officially unemployed, but everything can be produced so efficiently that you can give it away for free or for less.
You're right.
And this will lead, of course, there is this huge German angst that I will be unemployed. No, it just means you will not need to do work for money, because we are lazy, yes, but we don't want to sit in front, or just a minority want to sit in front of a TV and rot. The rest starts to think about, I'm bored. What made me happy?
Right.
So maybe some people will start make limericks. Even if it's a crappy limerick, you will influence someone simply to
Right.
say, hey, I can do it better. I guess that manual work to do something with wood, creativity, art will become a complete new thing, self-expression. So I don't see
Yes.
it negative, but this is a far vision. We need to skip the money. The near future will be really that people can listen onto their own needs, onto their passion, staying curious. So means this UBI idea means that you will not get money for doing nothing. Therefore, not a governmental thing, a corporate thing. You will be, let's say, a corporate X. You are living in the city, whatever. You know that you need to survive, to have a life without being hungry. You would need, let's say, $2,000 per month to somehow survive. So you can offer, when you are younger, you can offer more lifetime. The
Right.
older you become, the more you are not willing to make nonsense work. So you are experienced and you can work a bit less. So maybe when you are in your 20s, you can offer, let's say, 6 hours per week, per day, per day for your UBI. The older you become, the less, because you are more efficient and so on. The rest of your valuable time, and it depends on you if you simply decide to sleep longer
Right.
or to do something meaningful. Maybe that if you need more money within the same corporate, you could look out for a project where you could hop onto it as a freelancer. So we will face some kind of hybrid model, being employed for your UBI and then doing on top stuff, maybe at the same company, maybe at a different company, maybe for an NGO or whatever. It's in
Right.
your control how you will proceed with this. The important thing here is, as soon we escape this linear thinking, because now I could say, okay, it's this 6 hours per day plus on top and whatever. We should see it more or less as some kind of spheres, because what kind of jobs will you do? It's something that you already know. So the spheres will be overlapping, because everything what you do on a different project, it's some kind of learning, continuous learning.
Exactly.
So you bring more efficiency into the other stuff. So it's some kind of accelerating self-optimization, learning, and so on and
Love
so
it.
on. With new technologies or adaptive learning, augmented learning, we are able even to go into micro degrees where you will not, where it's not necessary to study for 6 years or whatever to have your degree. Not in this time when you simply hop from one passion to another passion,
Right.
where it's simply enough to learn for this one job in, if you are smart enough, within 6 weeks. If you need a bit longer, maybe let's say 3 months, to get your micro degree in being specialist in this one thing to enable you. Maybe we could also do some subcontracting. There was in 2015, what was this thing? I think at Verizon, there was this one guy in the IT department that figured out if his job was something that he was able to subcontract some guys, was it in China or in India? I don't remember anymore. And when he subcontracted these guys, he still had enough money to go on cool vacations. This is super smart. He was
It's so
fired.
smart.
He was fired not because he outsourced his own work, but because his management was pissed that they have not figured out.
Of course.
And I see here, if you apply for a job card, I mean, these new things, how we hire people, it's nonsense. These job cards are something you need to be fresh out of the university, but already with 30 years of experience, be super cheap, but with whatever. Come on, seriously? This is who are these people making fun of? So if you have these skills where you could hop into it, and maybe we should define major skills and minor skills, some kind of rating. For these jobs, it's essential that you fulfill this and that and whatever. And from these minor skills, if you fulfill, let's say 60%, why not outsource, subcontract these other skills
this
to
one
someone
little
else?
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So simply.
So fascinating that you say this. So, well, and this kind of comes back to your AI mention before,
Yes.
right? Because of course, in the hiring world, we're so reliant, especially on large companies, with the systems that narrow people down for us and help us fill roles. And when you describe it this way, I'm 100% on board. Like, this is the future I would love to see as well. But in the immediate, right? What change? Like, there's a lot of change that would need to happen, right? In the way that people consider this is what I'm looking for to fill this particular role. As we know, they create like some sort of job description. Typically, there's some sort of educational requirement. Like we all know, that's just because we're used to doing it, not necessarily because it means anything per se. And then, they filter that through their applicant tracking system. AI likes to read all the things and figure out this is the best person that fits that particular role. And, then someone in HR, like you said, who doesn't necessarily know exactly is the one who looks at this all over and makes a decision. So how, if in this future world where it's just all about creating this concept of skills, and maybe, right, one person doesn't necessarily have to fill one role.
I don't think it's a far future. I'm pretty sure, because I already started to work on some projects. For one company, I'm on paper designing, we call it a corporate AI, which will be a system that can analyze decision-taking processes. This is easy. If you are in a corporate, you can press everything in the process. So the sources where you get information from can be analyzed. The sexy thing here is that you can dock onto it a bias mitigation tool, where you can simply eliminate all kind of biased things and simply take it as neutral as possible. As long humans are deciding in these processes, they have their expectations. They have due to, I mean, this is normal. Also our data, how we collect data, when our data scientists, whatever, all this data is already biased. Because if you start collecting data, you have your life experience, you have your expectation. So of course you have your focus on things. It's different than how I deal with it. I mean, between two of us, maybe we have more similar things to approach than with anyone else. So here, as soon you put this into a real AI, not in one of these fake AIs, into an algorithm that can detect this, that can go through it, and to the management, to the one who decides, onto a smartphone, put in, hey, to this and that issue, my recommendation would be, do you agree? Yes or no? If yes, because it's transparent, it's everything and so on. If no, explain me why not. So the algorithm can learn. This is this one thing. We've extended it so that in this vision, every employee should have a corporate assistant on his smartphone that would be talking with this corporate AI. This assistant will plan your meetings, will take your meeting minutes, will help to organize you, and so
Mhm.
on and so on. It might also have access, or of course, to let you through the speed gates and so on, simply
Yeah.
to manage all the stuff for you.
So be like, that would be amazing. Let's press go on that right now.
Exactly. So it would be like a kind of proxy to another layer, which I call the human digital twin, which should be a twin of your person, having your health records. So when you are in the morning at a dentist, if anything changes, it will be immediately uploaded so that you will have it onto your file. The sexy thing here is it's just one facet of this thing. This human digital twin should be your representation. It could, for example, take over voice messages or Skype messages.
Right.
If you are not available, simply represent you. It could interact through this corporate assistant with the corporate AI. This will become important because health stuff, if you don't feel very well, and we have so many wearables, we are permanently under observation.
Yep.
So under control. And as soon, for example, right now in the pandemic, your temperature goes up or you don't really feel well, this digital twin could simply announce through the corporate assistant that today you are sick, you don't go. Or if it's something, this I will explain in a few, if it's something not on the on your physical level, but something on the mental level, you are stressed, you are whatever, that it simply would give a note to your manager, hey, I will not tell you what's going on, talk with your employee, talk with the one who you are responsible for. Because this kind of responsibility is completely, I don't have the feeling that in large corporates they care about.
Right.
And mostly in large corporates, the HR is not for the employees, it's for the management. It's some kind of firewall to keep the underlings away from you. So here the HR needs to rename themselves into human asset or human capital, really to value these people. When we deep dive again into this human digital twin, skills, super important. Skills are nothing that is really fixed. It can change because something might happen, and one of your skills being less risky might turn you into a complete risk taker. If your pet dies, it might change how you think about some things.
Right.
The more you learn about that, simply you see in a documentary something, it explains for you completely, and you change this one perspective on things. So here, I know a company in the pharma industry. They have developed small apps for the smartphones. So when you need a break, you simply play a small game.
Yep.
These things are continuously measuring your skills. So it's not like a kind of assessment that you do when you are hired, or maybe if you are lucky once per year. It only is, these assessments are just a snapshot.
I love what you're saying, because depending on what is going on, like we've learned this through COVID, that our personal life actually affects our work life all the time. It's all intertwined, right?
Yes.
And so if you think about it, let's just say one morning, I'll use what happened to me last night and this morning as an example of how my day would have gone today if I had let it. I didn't sleep for like 3 days for whatever reason. I have no idea. I just couldn't sleep. And it really got to me at the end of yesterday. So I went to bed early. I finally got a full night of sleep, but I still felt, just as you would, a little off. I woke up a little later than I would have today because of all of that, which meant everything was rushed. And because everything was rushed, there was a little tension in the family, stress about this, stress about that. And then all of a sudden, the way that I normally am as a person, which is super bubbly, positive thinking, that my brain has now all of a sudden decided to go back to the lizard brain, right? Because I'm like just going on with what I can deal with at that moment. And if I had been taking a break and on that app would have alerted to the fact that, whoa, you need to go for a walk.
Exactly. Yes.
Like get out in nature and just relax for a minute, because like you are not you right now. But that happens throughout our day, throughout our week, throughout our year. And so to like assess, when you think about this, for anyone out there that's like a sports fan, right? They are assessing players in this way all of the time prior to games. So in the past, right, you would have had your top players were always starters. Now it depends on where they're at that day. And they test out their hydration levels, their all of this.
Exactly.
It's just the same way from a mindset perspective.
Yes. Yes, our smartwatches are continuously looking onto oxygen in your blood, into heartbeat, and so on and so on. So all of these can indicate in what condition you are. I mean, you may be, when you've not slept for 3 days, maybe you've been so nervous because of our interview today, right?
Maybe.
Excited about it.
I was, of course.
Yeah. But the thing here is really, with this continuous checking and testing, they have developed these apps together with psychologists, and they can rate your skills and your development. And when you made a new high score, it might happen that the HR reaches out to you. Hey, you would be a complete, perfect, genius fit for a project. Are you interested? Yep. This is proactive human resource, or proactive human management.
Yep.
And this is what we need. So there are these weak signals from several companies. We just need to combine all of these really fancy things, and having something, or we are living in an extreme complex world, and we need these gadgets to decomplexitize our world, really to chill a bit more, to focus on, then we need focus on us, and really to get back quality time instead of
well, think about the reason why most people sit in front of a TV. It's because their life is stressed over something, and they are just trying to, right? But if you took that out, I can only imagine, you might have a little bit of time where your body's trying to figure it all out. And so you'll, lay there for a little while. But once you get to that point where like that constant level of stress is not hitting you, I think about a 6-hour workday as an example. Like, what other things would you focus on in your life? Like, how much happier would you potentially be? Like, there's so many things. And the one thing, and so Jay, we're coming close to the end of our time, and I really hate to like hit the stop on our conversation, because I think we could continue. I'm actually taking notes. That's how fascinating this is. I actually think we should continue 100%. But because we have to close out this particular conversation, I would love to say there's a lot that we've talked about. People like you and I that are listening in, and I tend to say people that have been able to think maybe outside of their box. This is not bad if you're not in this place. I don't want anyone to feel like you are still on a journey, and that is 100% fine. But I want to also speak to people that may not be in this place yet. And everything we may have talked about may have made them a little like scared about what is in store for them in the future. And I want to lean back on that and say, for listeners that are interested, and they're maybe a little bit scared, but this still is fascinating to them, what action can they take to start opening their awareness to some ways that they can use what's been put in their, I say skill toolbox, but basically what you've learned over your lifetime to maybe think about things in a different way?
One of the things that I'm mostly recommending to people who ask me, how can I improve this and that and whatever, my recommendation is mostly, you've named it before, sitting in front of the TV for whatever after a stressful day. This is just numbing yourself. So instead, start reading. This really starts to fire your own imagination. When you just consume things, this is already the imagination from someone else. It's an interpretation of whatever. We need to develop or get back our curiosity. There is nothing wrong. There are no wrong questions. There are no wrong answers. It's about discovering. It's about getting curious and listening onto what makes me happy. And I promise everyone who starts to be curious, questioning things, to develop passion, to listen onto what makes me really happy. We are living in times where more and more people want to have something like this. So they reach out to you and you can see if someone is happy. So getting these people that are inspiring me is important, that you can share your thoughts about. And even if it's just talking about the last book you've been reading, you will discover new facets on life and you will discover new opportunities. This is my promise to everyone who sees this this interview, who listens to this. It's really, we are the masters of our future. No one else can understand this. So take this future in your own hands.
Thank you so much. That is wonderful, wonderful advice. Jay, for anyone who wants to find you, where can they find you?
Well, of course, via LinkedIn. This is one of the most important business platforms. So search for Jay Latta, then you will see my sneaky head. Else, I have a website where I'm sorting my thoughts, jaylatta.net. And else via email, jay@jaylatta.net. So reach out to me whenever you have a question or simply drop a line to my host and she can connect.
We can do that too, for sure. So I really appreciate, Jay, you joining us today. This is fantastic. Like I said, we will 100% continue this conversation. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks a lot. Likewise, I wish you a great day. To everyone, enjoy. See ya. Bye-bye.